It all starts with a landscape of loud bumps. Soon we find out it's John Wick, training in the domains of the King of the Quarter, who quickly appears to ask if you are ready and deliver you a supersuit to now continue with revenge for everything. What happened at the end of John Wick 3 for Bellum, so we see as the king of the neighborhood, gives him a suit, and at dawn, John Wick heads into the desert in search of the regent. After an attempt to murder his subjects in a camel chase, John Wick finally arrives and finds the regent. However, this has been replaced and is not the same regent Wick gave his finger and ring to. The regent makes it clear that will solve nothing by killing him, telling John that he came a long way to nothing too late, because at that moment John decides to end his life, sending him to heaven, even though this means starting a war with the Supreme Order. Now we're in New York at the Continental, where we see a herald come looking. To Winston K. Rule immediately calls him, and we soon discover that the herald has come to expropriate the Continental by orders of the new representative of the Supreme Order, the Marquis Vincent de Gramont. Although Winston does not like this news, there is no turning back, and the herald places an hourglass with a countdown of 1 hour, because in that time the Continental will be destroyed. Much later, Winston and K. Rule will visit to the Marquis of Gramont. Here the Marquis reminds him that he failed to assassinate John Wick, and although Winston asks for a second chance, the Marquis makes it clear that second chances are for men who fail, so you can't save your hotel, and we see how the sand of the clock ends, being this the exact moment in which the Continental New York is demolished. After this, the Marquis makes it clear that he has lost his post, and now he's an ex-com, so he no longer needs a janitor, and we see who shoots K. Rule, ending his life. After this, the Marquis orders his right hand, bring Kane. Here we will meet him because this day was in a park, listening away to his daughter playing violin. But of course then he would be taken before the presence of the Marquis, who demands he return for one last mission. And although Kane mentions him, who is already retired because he is old, the Marquis does not mind telling him that today came very close to his daughter, leaving her the implicit message that he would kill her if he doesn't do what he wants. To put them in context, Kane is a killer and martial artist, blind and extremely skillful, and here we discover that he is an old friend of John Wick. Discover that you will have to kill him, realizes that the mission will not be anything easy because knew him in his youth, and how the Marquis threatened to kill his daughter if doesn't. Kane has to. From here we go to the Osaka Continental. Here we go to meet this mysterious fellow known as the Bounty Hunter, who has a dog and comes to stay in the Continental of this city. Here we know Akira, the concierge of this Continental, who receives him, and we also know his father, Kuchi, who is an old friend of John Wick's. Akira, worried about his father and what might happen in this hotel, tells him that he should watch his back and not receive Wick in this place because that would mean having the Supreme Order over them, and they would surely cause a massacre. Kuji makes it clear to his daughter that he must respect his old friend John Wick because he knew him before she was born. After this, we would see the Japanese address the back of the hotel, the secret part, where in the dark John Wick awaited him. Here, both greet, and Kuji tells him that it was a mistake to have killed the regent because now has the entire Supreme Order behind him, after making it clear that the order only brings death. John Wick apologizes for the inconvenience as he considers him a friend, and yet he has received it in this hotel knowing that the Supreme Order will come for him, and was not bad, because at that moment the right hand of the Marquis arrives demanding that he bring Koji, the manager of this Continental, to talk to him. Akira immediately orders, subtly emptying everyone. Knowing that the massacre will begin soon, Kuji is warned that they are looking for him, and so he appears before the right hand of the Marquis, who give you all the hotel facilities to check as you assume that John Wick is here. Kuji resists asking for his weapons, but this guy makes it clear that he should not make the mistakes the New York Continental made, with Wingstone resisting. Or the same would happen to your hotel. In the midst of this heated conversation appears Kane, recognizing Kuji as his old friend. Both wonder about their daughters. Kuji knows who has come on behalf of the Supreme Order, but there is no time for the Marquis's right hand interrupts them, asking Kuji to get out of his way, at which point the Japanese turn off the lights and decides to stand up to them with their ninjas ready for battle. So we see that a great battle where clearly the Japanese are superior. However, the representatives of the Marquis are not left behind. The noises of the battle reach the secret part, where John Wick was, who was talking to Akira, the daughter of the Japanese, ready with his suit and bow, asking him if he is armed because soon more arrive. Soldiers of the Supreme Order. Here begins an epic battle where John Wick puts them of Madrazos to all. leaving at the end Ineso. At the same time, on the other hand, in the kitchen of the hotel, we see Kane, the blind man, taking action, showing us his great abilities of dark devil, because despite being blind, he makes these Japanese whores. At the same time, in this great confrontation, the daughter of the Japanese is also put in front, giving them a chair, a beating to the representatives of the Marquis, with the help of John, who fights a few meters. But of course, in the confrontation, Akira is wounded by a shot, and her father, seeing her, goes after her. No time for more, as John Wick 2. Koji asks him to escape through the back door, and so he... The soldiers of the Supreme Order, for they were too many, and they were hunting him. Here he goes again, giving delicious massages to each of them. In the end, after beating several men, he ends up tired and things get more intense because the blind Kane arrives, his old friend and co-worker of his youth, eating the most tense things. After exchanging a couple of words, Kane begins a duel of shots and katanas. In battle, his old friend tells Wick he should not have come back, for the good of all, as they are being pressured by the Marquis in battle. We can see Kane's great abilities. Despite being blind, he reveals that accepted this deal for the family. However, the duel is interrupted by the bounty hunter, who attempts to assassinate John Wick, as his contract was increased to $20 million. Even so, John manages to leave the Continental, but at the door there were more men like that, who has to send to heaven a couple of soldiers of the Supreme Order, but the bounty hunter who tells him the price for his head will be rising, and it will be only then when you kill him, so you must escape and do well. At the same time, Koji arrives with his wounded daughter Akira to a staircase where he is with Kane. The blind man gives him a chance to escape with his daughter if he gives him the location of John Wick, but the Japanese of unwavering honor will not tell him and stands up to Kane in a duel, because for the Japanese, brotherhood is everything. Here we have a brief but close katana battle, which starts with Kane attacking because he is more agile, and so we see that cuts off his chest. Kane is still willing to leave and leave him alive because Koji was finished, but the Japanese decides to fight to the end like a real man. Oops, too late. Too pitiful for him to be mortally wounded, Akira. His daughter arrives to see his father in his last moments, and although he tries to take the katana to fight Kane, the blind man prevents him because he would never defeat him, so the Japanese just goes crying, while the blind man tells him that he will be waiting for her when revenge. While this happened on the train, John Wick was waiting to leave. There it comes. Akira wounded, asking our protagonist to kill Kane. At the same time, the king of the neighborhood, meets with Winston, because now among the homeless will unite to fight against the Marquis. For remember, the Supreme Order left him several ornaments on his face. To the king, and now together with Winston are in this together. Later, the bounty hunter arrives with the Marquis, who comes to ask for $23 million in exchange for the location of John Wick. But the Marquis, before making a deal with him, sticks a dagger in his hand, making him cut himself to seal the pact between the two of us. We're going back to John Wick, who arrives in New York, where he reunites with Winston, who was in K-Rong's grave. The reunion, despite the end of John Wick's Parabellum 3, is emotional in this cemetery. Here Winston tells him that to beat the Marquis, he must challenge him to a duel, because if simply kill him, the Supreme Order will quickly replace him before he is buried. But in order to challenge him to a duel, he must first represent a mafia family. And so we go to territories of the Ruska Rome, exactly a church where John Wick arrives and is received exceptionally with a father's backload, after which he, trapped and subdued by this Russian family, formerly owned by John Wick. Here, our protagonist offers to represent the Russian family to challenge a duel against the Marquis and kill him. John Wick had come looking for Pyotr, but this is no longer, for he was murdered after he killed the regent, the Russian daughter named Katya, who, now he's in charge. He agrees to make him a part of the family, but first, John Wick must assassinate the fatso, called Killa, who killed Pyotr by orders of the Supreme Order. From here we go to the domains of Killa, this fat guy with teeth implants of gold awaiting his dominions to John Wick. The meeting is intensified, therefore, in that place. Kane was also waiting for him, and the bounty hunter is caught and taken away. Before the presence of Killa, the fat, here after a round of closed poker where Killa is clearly superior. They make clear the three who already lost from the moment. But of course the blind man, John Wick, and the bounty hunter do not stand still and fight against the men of the obese. John with a card cuts him. Killa's neck, but this one still manages to escape our killer. Here it begins. A great chase through the club where there were many people dancing and enjoying the music and high substances. But of course, despite the tumult, John Wick manages to catch Killa without. But this one stands up to him and subjects our protagonist to a reverend beating, being very upper and throwing it from the upper to the lower floor, where for your luck, John Wick doesn't break his back. After this, after fighting his guards, John manages to catch Killa in a second round, where this time he is superior and subdues him to blows in the face. Although this is nothing for the fat as he recovers, however. This time John Wick gets more try-hard and throws it from the top, making it break. The neck in the stands by the fall. After this, removes one of his gold teeth as shows and takes him away, although on the way, the bounty hunter almost kills him by Kane, who saves John Wick by telling him it's his, so we see how John delivers him. The tooth to Katya, the daughter of Piotr, proving that he has fulfilled his word, and so it is. As Katya also fulfills hers, and that is back in the Ruska Rome family. John Wick is received and marked with the family badge, and now he is ready to. After these events, Winston arrives to visit the Marquis de Graham to inform you that John Wick is challenging you to a duel, and you must accept it as these are the old rules, and although the Marquis initially refused, he must accept these. Traditions are mythical, so we see how they later meet at the Eiffel Tower to agree on the terms of the duel, which John Wick's misfortune will be at dawn. Well, he wanted it to be now, but he got the lowest card, for his luck at least. Wins with the weapons that will be for the duel, for he chooses guns, and apparently everything. Well, however, the Marquis decides to nominate Kane as his representative to fight against John Wick, for the truth did not want to risk. So we see as later our protagonist reunites with his old friend Kane in the church. This is a clear farewell. Here, the blind man reveals that the order made him choose between him and his daughter. So he chose kill him. After a brief chat between friends, John Wick leaves after these events. In the early morning, the king of the neighborhood and Winston deliver him in the subway station a super elegant bulletproof suit, reminding him that a man should look elegant on the day of his marriage as the day of his death. For after the duel, he shall go out alive or dead. But of course, that night also the Marquis was afraid. So he prepares a whole strategy for that John Wick didn't come to the duel at dawn. That night, John has to fight all morning against thugs he has on his head after a raft ride through the sewers of Paris. John Wick is left by the king of the neighborhood near the Sacred Heart, place where the duel will be. Before leaving, John tells Winston that if he dies, he wants his epitaph say beloved husband. But of course, as the Supreme Order has eyes on all, is quickly discovered in the 16th arrondissement, and the thugs go after. He, after being run over a couple of times and murdering every bully he comes across, John Wick gets out safely in a Mustang. Next place there'll be more fighting is in the Bow of Triumph, place where the right hand of the Marquis arrives with all his men to stop John Wick and kill him so that he does not reach the duel. It is here where our protagonist, being an exceptional drift, he charges more assassins. Here he has a duel with the subject representing the Marquis where he smashes him into a van, but Wick, he's up to it and throws it into a car. Then he gets a motorcycle and manages to escape. But of course, the radio of the Supreme Order was active, and with the voice of a slut, all murderers are warned that John Wick is getting closer to the Sacred Heart. But before arriving, has a battle with all these men in an old house. Here things get intense. There's even a camera shot up like a 2D weapon game. The good thing is that Wick looks, but of course the bounty hunter will. He was on his heels, and when he got close, he called the Marquis to demand more money. The Marquis, as he stands against the sword and the wall, he simply accepts, however. Before the bounty hunter and our protagonist can kill him, they have a brief battle of hands where Wick is superior, but does not choose to kill him, but to save the dog from the bounty hunter. Because it's dog lover, so we see that it shoots the representative of the Marquis, and now, yes, John Wick escapes by jumping out the window, falling several floors down, being muffled. For a truck, wow, but what resistance. And now, yes, must climb some steps too. Reach the Sacred Heart and present yourself to the duel. No surprise will not be so easy, as more thugs appear, and although John Wick faces them by knocking them down many, despite being very tired, all turn against him, for the trusted bully of the Marquis kicks John Wick back, rolling down the stairs. The bottom, Wick was too tired and was not going to come to the duel, as he was already be dawn and had no time, yet Kane appears to lend a hand, helping him to fight to get up. The bounty hunter by his side come to his dog, who is attacked. Killing the Marquis thug, the blind man continues to help Wick, because if he does not arrive to the duel, the Marquis will kill his daughter and never let them be free. So then, John Wick barely arrives, but Kane cuts off his hand with his cane, disabling him. Right hand, so he doesn't have as much skill with the gun, and he has to use his left hand. So we see that the duel begins, both take their weapons and walk 30 steps. The Marquis delivers the bullet to Kane, as he was his representative, while Winston to John Wick. Thus they begin. The shots where both occur in non-vital parts of the body. The second shot is 20 paces away, where both are injured but not severely, however, in the final shot. John Wick does not shoot, and Kane leaves him very hurt. And of course, as our protagonist knows in The Last, the Marquise's representative claims the shot of grace to assassinate John Wick, yet in that moment of distraction by talking to Winston, our protagonist uses the bullet he never used against the blind man to kill the Marquis with a bullet in the head, however. John was too injured, and in the morning light tells Winston. The Herald proclaims John Wick as the victor, so Winston. The Continental will be restored and he as manager, while the blind Kane, almost free from the Supreme Order with his daughter. But of course, John Wick was too wounded. And although he is now a free man, he only takes a few steps below the being illuminated by the sun to immediately lose his life and die good. Finally died as a free man, and that's what really matters. Finally, John Wick is buried beside the tomb of his wife, with her epitaph of beloved husband, as he once wanted it in life, and now he did after much at last, with her, ending with Chapter 4 of John Wick, but quiet there is a scene. Post-credits where we see Kane go to hear his daughter play violin, but clear here, Koji's daughter will go and collect revenge for him and approaches him with a dagger, but we don't know anymore because here the film ends, that the truth was very good, with that touch, sad, regrettable, but necessary. And is that all good stories have an end? If you liked it, leave a comment and also watch our other videos. And before leaving, rest assured to subscribe to the channel for other film summaries.